All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to get going. Members of the Malaysian Dutch Business Council, guests from Eurochem and other European bilateral chambers, and other guests, welcome at Safe at Work, one of the sessions of MDBC's annual Human Resources Forum 2021. My name is Marco Winter, Executive Director of the MDBC. With 100 registrations, we realize that this is such an important topic for you at this moment. And today's speakers look forward to provide you with their input. One speaker from the Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, the ministry that initiated this program to support industry. And one speaker from industry to share their best practices in the workplace, in their workers' dormitories, and in or with their supply chain. Before we get started, we would just like to have a moment to hear from you, our audience, what your current situation is like and what your expectations on the near future are. So Adeline, can we please have the poll questions, the 3 poll questions that we would like you as the audience to participate in? There they are. Please, after answering the first one, scroll down to the next one. Okay. In the meantime, let me just make a few announcements, please. This session is organized in a Zoom webinar format, so your camera and mic will remain off. The 2 presentation slide decks will be made available to you, so you will not have to ask a question, you do not have to take screenshots. They will be made available to you. Both speakers will present for 15 minutes, and then the remainder of the hour will be for Q&A. The MITI team will also take the questions, so please post these in the Q&A box. Do not post them in the chat box, please. And we need to have a record in the Q&A box. Personal questions and cases might be answered in writing in the Q&A box or after this session. More general questions we'll be more than happy to share with the audience and hear the responses of the speakers. Adeline, how are we doing with the responses? Shall we close the poll? I think everybody had about a minute. All right, let's end the poll and bring up the answers, please.
Michael, just give a few more seconds.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's please share the results. Thank you. All right, dear audience, what is your situation right now? About 50% of you, the majority, or about 40% of you is working from the office, from your premises at about 50%. I think that is in line with some of the SOPs and what we're in now, of course, the National Recovery Phase 1, although some of you might be calling in from Phase 2 areas. All right. And a few lucky ones are getting closer to 100%, but also still nearly 20% still at 0%. All right, that's definitely something to consider. At which percentage of your HR capacity would you experience problems maintaining the social distancing? Yeah, do you have enough space in your office for social distancing? Good to see that at least 50%, vast majority of you has enough space in the office to maintain that. But also a quarter of you, 50% of HR capacity, you might already run into some problems. So hopefully you get some tips today how to work with that. And then by when do you expect your operations, whether it's in an office or factory, to be back to 100%? All right, guys, there's a lot of hope here. I see nice results. 70% of you expect that in the next 2 months, or at least this year, Q4, when either, hopefully everybody has been vaccinated as well. Small percentage will say never. We will always have to maintain some form of working from home or in shifts. All right, hopefully the speakers can also make use of this information. Thank you for your input. Now let's introduce the speakers. You've already been able to read their bio data in the opening slides, so I'll keep it very short. Our second speaker later on will be Mr. Evert Meinersma, the Director of Operations for Asia Pacific of Jacobs Douwe Egberts, or as we proud Dutch say, Jacobs Douwe Egberts, JDE. But first up, we will have Ms. Vimala Murugan, the Deputy Senior Director, Industrial Development Division, Ministry of International Trade and Industry. Vimala, Welcome and thank you for joining us today. You've had a busy morning. You already completed a PICAS webinar briefing for EuroCham, which was also attended by many of our members. In between, you had to probably make a stop at the PICAS War Room, as you call it yourself, at the MITI office. So thank you very much for joining us, and the floor is all yours for your Safe at Work briefing. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Yes, I ran a marathon in the morning, and yeah, I have time to breathe right now. Adeline is going to share the slide. Yes. First. Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm very quick. Okay. Just to begin, I think many of you know that we MITI rolled out the Safe at Work initiative back in March 2021. That was actually mainly due to the increased number of infections in the manufacturing sector. And then come to the, actually MITI is always looking at the numbers in manufacturing sector infections. Currently, until the 15th July, we have over 6,000 new cases in the manufacturing sector. So based on all the monitoring and all that, then we realized that the SOPs, be it the general SOPs or specific SOPs for manufacturing sector was not efficient, while MITI needs to do some hand-holding or prepare some education for the companies to follow. So that's why this Safe at Work SOP was guideline was actually established with various engagements with industries, associations, and international chambers, other ministries like Ministry of Health, and various other ministries also involved in coming up with this guideline. So officially, the Prime Minister announced it in a special National Security Council meeting on 3rd March 2021. So the Safe at Work guideline is, we aspire it to ensure the business continuity while safeguarding lives and livelihoods. It also to empower employers to be accountable and responsible for containing the pandemic or any future crisis, and it actually should help companies to create safe work bubbles with a reformed digital strategy through this. And also many other companies have informed us of how they have actually transformed the work environment to keep their workers safe. Lastly, it should actually create awareness of industry and society on the importance of safe at work. So to avoid complacency, relax in the SOPs, SOPs to be adhered to. The government agreed to facilitate and encourage industry to adopt Safe at Work initiative by giving some commitment to say that avoid complete shutdown of companies. I know many of you will have the question of it did not happen. Say they adopted Safe at Work guideline in their factories, but what happened? But I would like to clarify that over the past few months, you see the increased number of infections on the ground, especially like for us, we would like to take charge of manufacturing and related services. In that sense, we were not able to activate Safe at Work guideline to say that this is the certificate that we are using to stop you all from shutting down. MITI and MKN, we also have given our, allowed, said that we would allow you to be given priority to operate during MCO and future crisis. That's on hold as well. And the tax deduction of 50,000 per company for rental of premises or accommodation is agreed upon by the government, and the guidelines and also the gazette is being drafted right now. This would really help, because currently lots of businesses are facing cash flow issues. So this will help the companies. And then when it comes to MOH, CPSR, and DOSH, the transparent guideline for industry is actually helping, especially the small and medium-sized industries. There's a big struggle out there for them to follow what guideline. So on top of this Safe at Work guideline, the mandatory guideline would be the SOPs announced by the National Security Council. Facilitation in terms of COVID-19 management and vaccination strategy. This one currently be activated. PICAS, the Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation appointed MITI to manage the industry vaccination program. That has been officially rolled out on the 13th June. And currently we have vaccinated about 200,000 workers in the manufacturing sector. The gazetted price range for RTK antigen, you would have heard that the requirement of twice RTK tests undertaken on the employees, that is actually recommended, not mandatory. So the price range, which is actually controlled, would help the companies to keep the cost down. Expedite the reopening of the premises. I will see it together with the disinfection. What we did was we have close contact with the state level health departments to have more understanding on the companies, so that if there's an infection happen, they can be quickly disinfected and cleansing happen, and they can open and operate, compared to the maximum 7 days of mandatory closure of the company if there's any incident. Push factor is that strict enforcement of continuous awareness of Act 446. We know in certain subsectors, especially in 3D sectors, the compliance to Act 446 is a great challenge. We are trying to impose that, that has to be adhered to. So this is it. Okay, so under the Safe at Work initiative, Safe Work Bubble is one of the elements which is promoted. As you know, the implementation of Safe at Work is voluntary and optional. We think that completely going on punishing mode is not going to help the industry. Rather, it should be an educative process, so we can handhold the companies to be with us. So the questionnaire, I think there are about 70 over questions for companies to answer when you register for Safe at Work, would actually give you an overview of what you can actually implement in your factory or work places in order to keep the environment safe for everyone. So in a snapshot, this is the environment that we are talking about when it comes to Safe Work Bubble. On a normal situation, you would have multiple plants, and the workers will be using the same bus, be it from plant A, plant B, the same bus is used, and then the accommodation is completely, everyone is using the same accommodation, same premises. But in Safe Work Bubble environment, everything is separated. Say plant A workers would be just using one particular or a few particular buses for that particular plant, and also accommodation separated and according to that plant. So that is actually what we are promoting. Quite a number of companies, especially the multinational companies, have actually adhered to this model. But companies without much resources are still unable to adhere to this requirement. So the elements under Safe at Work, briefly, there are preventive measures, health screening that is mandated by the normal SOP. What happens when the employee enters the work premises, health screening, and then there are workplace initiatives. Some companies go over and beyond what is mandated by the SOPs by MKN. and then case and contact management in accommodation, as well as workers transportation and monitoring mechanism. So the employers will implement the workers monitoring of, if there's close contact happening. So there would be a whistleblower system, encouraged to be applied, so that the company management is informed on such a breach of SOP. So this is the governance of Safe at Work verification team. So initially, this is what is has been planned. So we have 8 regional offices in the states, and then we wanted to collaborate with the Jabatan Tenaga Rakyat Kerja, Ministry of Human Resources, and then the town planning agency, Department of Safety and Health, local. So it's a very comprehensive plan. So wanted to work hand in hand with them to roll out the verification visit. So it's a verification visit, not an enforcement visit. So a lot of companies are actually skeptical in participating, because audit or enforcement visit will be a challenging situation for them if any fault is found, and there's a worry that we will shut them down completely. But Safe at Work is actually a verification visit to encourage adherence to SOP. So currently we have a total of 4,000 over companies registered with us, and 3,600 have with an online poll as happened just now. 3,623 are deemed, have put in place proper SOPs adhering to Safe at Work guideline. And then by states, the top 5 states interested in following Safe at Work guideline is like the usual states: Selangor, Johor, Penang, Perak. So these are the states which are always proactively engaging the SOPs, Safe at Work guidelines to create safe at work environment. And then when it comes to top 5 subsectors, the automotive, machinery and engineering, packaging, E&E and food sectors are to be the top sectors for interested in participating in Safe at Work application. So information on Safe at Work can be found in MITI website. So that's all from me now. I can take any questions now. Marco, it's up to you now, or at the end of the Edberts presentations, we can take questions.
Thank you, Fibula.
Thank you.
I think we take the questions later. Maybe some of the questions will be suitable for you as well as for Evert, so we can see how we divide it at that time. Thank you so much for keeping it concise this past 10 minutes or so. And yeah, please join me right now in listening to Evert's practical experiences in the JDE workplace. Evert, over to you, please.
See my screen?
Yes, we can. If you can put it to presentation mode, please.
Yeah, I will.
There we go. Excellent.
So hello, everyone. Let me click this away, see if I can click that away. Hello, everyone. So my name is Evert Maijnsma. I'm Operations Director here for APAC for Jacobs Douwe Egberts. What I'm going to be sharing with you is especially a bunch of pictures. We will be sharing the deck with you later, and any question which I won't be able to answer later, I will be able to come back to you via Marco later stage as well. So let me first introduce the company very quickly. So we're here, our business basically, we're part of the JDE Peach Group, and we're the world's largest pure play coffee and tea group based in our headquarters in Amsterdam. Our Asia Pacific headquarters is Singapore and Johor. And especially in Johor, we have the headquarters for operations and R&D. In Asia Pacific, we have about 4,700 people. across 8 countries and 10 manufacturing facilities. So what do we have in Malaysia? Actually a lot. Malaysia is a very, very important country for us. So we have the regional manufacturing hub, meaning all important decisions in APAC are taken from Johor. And then we also have the global R&D people here, so approximately 50 people. And then we have a factory, the Old Town factory in Ipoh, and we have commercial offices as well in the KL area. 2,700 associates, and then JDE's portfolio, it's mainly coffee and tea, and also some cereal brands here. And on top of that, of course, we have the F&B cafe business with the Old Town white coffee. I'm quite sure everybody has seen one living in Malaysia. So these are our brands: Old Town, Essenso, Maxwell House, Super, quite big here in Malaysia, Moccona coffee, and then we have Lure and some of the other brands in APAC, which are more in Australia and New Zealand. So what I wanted to be talking to you about are a couple of different topics. So first, how did we organize, and it's very practical, a safe workplace? So what have we done in the offices and in the factory? What have we done on transport? And especially also what have we done on safe housing? And I like a lot what I've just seen from Vimala, because this whole segregation and this initiative, that is exactly what we do over here, and that is what I will be sharing with you. And then we talk a little bit on business continuity, but the key focus of this presentation is the first 3 points. Now, what do? I think every company is doing this, so it's not that special. We do screening at the guardhouse. Then, of course, we have the check-in, and we wear both a face shield and a mask. We do both, and we sanitize our plants. We have those sanitization on our hands everywhere in the company. I want to say one thing on the mask and face shield wearing. What we've also done is we do very actively checking on the discipline in doing this. We all know that these kind of things are not always very comfortable. And we have been quite adamant to our people and checking with them, and also put some operating rules in place. What happens if, for whatever reason, you decide not to do that, because this is absolutely essential. Also because some parts of the factory, it is impossible to do the social distancing perfectly, simply because the workstations are then quite close together. And I think many in the industry will recognize that as a problem. As a result, this is very, very important. So what we do on top, we do the social distancing, and all the visitors and contractors, they need to do a health declaration. Of course, we have the lining everywhere in the plant. So we made it designated walking routes. So it's clear on which side you need to be. And we also have, as much as possible, visualization. So what you see here in this particular room, this is the operations control meeting, where you have different people in, and then there are different positions for the people to participate in that meeting. In every meeting room, we write down on the outside how many people are allowed to sit inside. And then, of course, the typical lift segregation we have as well. A lot of social distancing measures we put in place. So what you can see here on the left side, you see the partitions, and we see quite big offices. And also in the canteen, I'm not sure if it's not super clear on the picture, but you can see their different segregation between the different spots. And above all, what we're also doing is we're managing the flow of workers, especially in the offices. As you can see on the left-hand side, this is relatively easy. In the factories, it's a lot more difficult. In Johor, we have 800 people. When these people go and have lunch, you need to make sure you manage all the details of that, because if not, in these congregation points, so to speak, you have the chance of people getting way too close to each other. So we have not only staggered breaking times, we also changed the working times for the different groups of people to avoid that everybody is coming in the plant at the same time or that everybody is leaving at the same time. So we made a whole schedule on that. Now, other things we've done, and I deliberately put this in red because I'm absolutely confident that this has been helping us so far, and I have to knock on wood here, but it has helped us so far for major outbreaks. Of course, we had our COVID cases, absolutely, but it was never a huge spread of cases. We have always been able to segregate people. And the reason why we're able to do that, and you can see it in the back of the helmet, you see a red color on the person on the left side, and then you see green colors for the other two people in the other picture. And what we've done is we have a whole color coding system in which every associate is having a certain color, and the whole setup is that everybody is only working in their own color bubble, so to speak. So if you work in processing and you have a red color, you will never be able to be allowed to walk even through the packing area, or to walk to another part of the factory, which is also processing. And then another big thing we did last June is we created work-life units. What does that mean? We have big dormitories next to our factory, and we have been reshuffling our personnel in such a way that all the people who work together, they are also living together, or they're sharing the same dormitory rooms. This is to avoid that if the red people and the green people live together, the whole segregation at the work floor doesn't make any sense. And you start spreading the virus very, very quickly. So typically what we see is if we, for example, have a COVID infection in the green bubble, what do we then do? We do the tracking and tracing. We put the people who have the green color in quarantine. We arrange immediate testing, and we also are able to minimize the number impacted because they also live together. So this was a big thing. You can imagine if you're shuffling a huge group of people from one room to the other room, people are not happy with that. So one of the things we also did is to make this more palatable for the people is we created a lot of extra space in the dormitories. So our dormitory occupation went down from probably 95% to 50% to also allow this to happen. And this is then just an example on all the different colors we're having in the different parts of the factory. Not to go in detail. Also, we have a very, very strict segregation between day shift people and night shift people. They won't meet each other. They won't see each other. That is basically how we manage it. And this has been a big part of our ability to mitigate and to avoid massive outbreaks. Now, of course, we do lots and lots of cleaning. We do that very structured. We have dedicated cleaners. So we do the workstation. So these are the areas where people are touching buttons. We clean that. And then the common areas, we sanitize that 3 times per day. So lifts, areas, etc. We do the misting of the chloride based on the disinfectant. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure how often we do it, but we are doing that regularly as well. And then, of course, we have the hand sanitization stations everywhere across the plant. What is very important is communication. People are nervous, people are afraid, especially in the beginning when we started having the first COVID cases in our plant in January. You could see people became very, very nervous. So we kept them informed via written communication, oral communication, to keep them up to date. Hey guys, this is what's happening. We had 2 or 3 people got infected in this part of the factory. These are the measures we're taking, and this is how we assure your safety. I think that is very, very important. And then, of course, we have all the banners and the information everywhere throughout the plant, really everywhere. But what is, again, I want to emphasize, it's very important to make sure you actively steer on the right behavior. So it's simply unacceptable if people don't wear masks properly. It won't be accepted. We might remember people once or twice, but this is the way of working. If you don't want to do it, you're not welcome. It's that simple. Now we have some emergency kits in case we have to act. It's at the security area, and then this is, I guess, the schedule, the scheme how we're doing this. This is not unique. I think this is typically how it's being managed. So what we have is, in case we have a COVID infected person, so that is what we would call category A, an infected person. We test the person and we do the contact tracing. We isolate all contact Bs and we send them for testing. And we do the same with the contact C. So these are people who have been in contact with the contact B. As soon as the contact Bs are freed up, the contact Cs can go back to work. And this is how we are managing via regular meetings. We're fully on top of the situation. And we also stay very close to our associates in case they're sick, just to, of course, make sure how we can help them and how we can support them. So another important thing is contractors. Of course, every contractor is having a different background. They all have they're coming from literally different disciplines, different companies. So we have specific entrance for the contractors, also specific lifts. We also have safety briefings. And again, we do active follow-up with the contractors on the behavior in relation to social distancing, mask usage, face shield usage. And we have dedicated eating areas for our contractors. Again, staying in close with management of the contractors is also exceptionally important in case there are infections in the factory. Now, if you have a safe working place, it's nice, but if you don't have safe transport, it doesn't help you at all. So what we've done is we protect our drivers. So the drivers are completely segregated from the rest. We minimize the number of people in the small buses and the vans, and also in the big buses. We have temperature measurement in the van, and we also have hand sanitization device in the van. So again, we follow basically, when we put all those measures in place, we follow the total flow of our people throughout the site. And we analyze completely how can we segregate the different workers. That is what we do very consistently and very concisely. This is a big part of, and I don't want to claim it's success really, but I'm 100% confident if we would not have done the segregation in living together, working together, we would have had massive problems in the months of January and February, and recently we also had a couple of cases. How did we do that? We reduced the space, the occupancy per dormitory from 90% to 50%. We have clear segregations everywhere. We have enforcement in the dormitory to make sure people are behaving according to those rules. We have dedicated quarantine rooms always available. So in case someone is sick or in case someone needs to be segregated, we have 24 rooms available and at all times. So of course, this all comes with a cost, guys. Huh? I want to be very clear. I mean, we're spending hundreds of thousands of euros to make sure we can do these things. And we also invested in improved living conditions So for example, again, to avoid minimizing the congested areas in the dormitory, we have now washing machines in every dorm. We have good internet. We have guided trips to shopping centers, etc. We're doing everything we can, honestly, to keep our associates safe. It's not always easy, but I think generally the people are appreciating what we're doing for them to keep them not only safe, but also to keep their workplace secure. Because in the end, of course, if you cannot run, that can have other consequences. These are the do's and don'ts in the dormitory. And this is my last slide, guys. It's also, I know my time is up. So the supply chain impacts, I'm probably saying nothing new. It's nice if you can run your coffee factory, but if you don't have your ingredients, your raw materials, which is coffee or packaging materials and everything which is needed, you cannot run. So we're also very, very close with our suppliers, and also making sure we work with them that they have alternate sources to alternatives if they cannot produce. And of course, we stocked up as much as we can. So we have extra stock in the supply chain, so we can handle 1 or 2 weeks of a problem without having the immediate impact if one of our suppliers, for example, cannot work for a while or have a minimized capacity for a while. Especially the EMCO in the KL area, the Selangor area, hurt us quite badly, because suddenly our distributor was shut down, our warehouse was shut down. It only took for a little while, and then they were allowed to go back up again. But I'm quite sure that every company has their story in this. Also, the disruption and the delays, I think we can all relate to get the proper licenses, etc., the applications. Sometimes it's not easy, you know, if the rules are being put in place, or like they're communicating on a Saturday, and then on Monday you need to have everything implemented, and then on Tuesday the police is in your factory. It's sometimes very stressful and also sometimes not very nice, but yeah, we have to live with it, and we try to do that as good as we can. And then, of course, the workforce quota, recognizing that I'm not allowed to complain because we're being considered essential goods, so we can still run our plants, thank God. But of course, the workforce quota has a very negative impact, not only on the production, but also on the execution of special projects, which are extremely important for our business, but I would also say for the Malaysian economy, because that, of course, these projects is exactly what we all want, but sometimes some of our contractors don't get the permission to work, and then, of course, we cannot execute these projects, costing us a lot of money as well, and stress and also trust in the situation in Malaysia. But again, this is common for everyone. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Evert, for sharing your experiences.
You're welcome.
Vimala, can we also get you back into the program, please? Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the audience, again, if you have any questions, please post these in the Q&A. That is a bit easier for us, but in the meantime, I will start with something that we already received. Vimala, you had one of your last slides was related to the applications that MITI has received so far, and that about 70% or slightly over 70% had made their passing mark, their passing grade, correct?
Yes.
All right. The question is, what are the most common mistakes made by the, let's say, 25% or so that didn't reach passing mark yet? What can other companies learn to try to avoid those same mistakes?
Normally, the companies with a big number of employees, the segregation at the accommodation would be a big challenge. And then at the same time, I would say one of the weakness of the system is that it gives a very important emphasis on the workers' accommodation and the segregation in bubbles, right? Some of the companies, they don't have foreign workers, and they don't have that. So in that sense, it doesn't detect the accommodation as an issue to be eliminated from the questionnaire. So that is one of the major issues. But majority of the companies, claim that they actually follow all the recommendations based on the SOP.
So if you don't have any workers, whether that's foreign workers or domestic workers that stay in dormitories, workplace provided accommodation, do companies also need to keep track of where their workers live and check out their own living conditions in their communities?
Normally what we would do is that the majority of the infections actually happen among the workers who live in dormitories. So there was no proper testing was done at the dormitory. So when the workers go to work at the premises, so the number was captured as the workplace cluster. So that's the reason. So the focus is also given heavily towards the accommodation, how the workers will be segregated according to the bubbles that they are working in, say, the line A or line B, So that's one of the main issues for us.
But maybe if I can comment on that, what we're currently seeing, actually, we have more infections coming from outside of the dormitory than from inside of the dormitory.
Oh, so that's good for you, but then it's like for us, it's like for the major companies, that will be like, if the living condition is not as stipulated in Act 446, that means it's like lots of congestion in the dormitories, right? So the employers are not able to keep the workers safe away from each other from getting infected.
Yeah, we've seen definitely a lot of progress after the discussions this past week, that the National Security Council is now focusing the EMCO areas no longer to districts or states, but more to so-called localities, which in many cases is indeed the places where the dormitories are. And I think that's a very wise decision. Industry can continue a bit larger scale that way. Maintaining their own SOPs, but restricting the EMCO regulations to those areas with dormitory housing and accommodation, I think is benefiting all of us, also in terms of testing. Talking about testing, Evert, is there any advice that you can give? What kind of contractors do you work with regard to testing and sanitization?
Yeah, honestly, the details on how we do the testing, I don't know. What I do know is that we test as much as we have to. And we're very, so as soon as we have an issue with a COVID positive, we test as much as we can. Mm-hmm. And all these costs are borne, of course, by the company. We've had two times. We had one time when the MOH came on our site. To be honest, we're a bit frustrated by that, but fine, it does happen, I understand. So they came on our site because we had 2 COVID cases. And I don't exactly understand the reason why, but they forced us to shut down half of the plant. So that's 400 people. We tested all of them. And then we were allowed to go back up again. But that was one incident more. If we have a COVID case, what we do is we test, and we just follow all the SOPs. And in case of doubt, we test. We want to eliminate the problem like immediately. That's what we're doing. But which company we're using, I'll come back to that. But I don't know by heart. Okay,
fair enough. The reason I'm asking is that, of course, there's more and more companies that are coming out on the market. And in all those kind of situations, you never know who is really valid, who is certified, approved by whatever kind of authorities to actually provide these products or to provide those services. And that's something that I think all companies are a bit worried about as well.
Yeah, well, for sure, we always go for, we won't try to save any money on that.
Yeah.
In the end, the key thing is that we get the testing done right.
Great. And I must say, I mean, I'm very happy that some of our members actually indicated a few days ago when the latest SOPs came out, and Vimala already mentioned it, there's no more requirement to do twice a week testing, but several member companies already came out and say, well, we continue doing this because the risk of a couple of cases in the factory and then having to close down, the cost of that is so much higher than the potential cost of the testing. It also gives a much safer feeling to the workers. And I think, yeah, both of you have focused on that part as well, the mental well-being of your team, your staff, your employees, to make sure that they are motivated to come to work and are not scared about the situation, and that they really have the feeling that you've done everything that you could.
Yeah, what I'm also predicting is that once this is whenever it will be over, and we all don't know, but for sure some of these impact of some of the changes we made will be very permanent. I think we won't go back to and don't get all the dormitories we're using are within the guidance of the authorities. So everything we're doing is according to the rules, but I don't see us go back to that occupancy of 90%. I really think it has also opened up our eyes twofold. They're extremely important for us, our foreign workers. They're as important as other workers, so we need to cherish them. And we do believe that it does help in engagement.
I do know that some companies now use hotels that are not occupied at all, or that otherwise might have closed down because of the lack of tourists. In Johor, that might also be valid. How would you see that situation later on when Malaysia does open up again for tourism? Would there be enough accommodation to maintain this the setup that you have in place right now? Evert, first you, and then Vimala. How do you see that later with regard to workers' accommodation?
Yeah, I don't see a problem in Johor. I think there's excess capacity, really. And so we have a dormitory, we can flex within the dormitory. And we're also actually, because quite a lot of our foreign workers left, so we're in the transition to hire more and more local workers, and they just have their local houses and they live in the area. So I don't see a problem.
All right, Vimala?
When it comes to the local authorities, they are more flexible and they are more aware on letting companies to rent premises in certain areas, because we hear that, you know, while the businesses shut down, there are premises which are empty and vacant. So previously, the local authorities were a little strict on renting out those premises to the companies with foreign workers, but now they are more flexible in letting the premises be rented or leased, provided the employers follow the right SOPs, don't cram up too many workers in one, you know, like house or, you know, shop lots, you know, and all that. So that is actually being looked at.
Okay. Thank you for that. Evert, you mentioned some of the costing. On your case, multinational company, one of the biggest in your sector in the world, cost already a few $100,000 euros, not even ringgits, but euros. What is your advice to SMEs? What would be the key elements that they should look for in order to implement such a program at their premises with, of course, a lower budget?
Yeah, if I think about what is costing money, of course the testing is costing money. We spend a lot of money in the beginning, especially when in January, when we also started housing our associates in hotels. So that also costs us money, but in our world, it's always relatively simple. Not running is way more costly than arranging that. So that is one. A lot of the measures I showed in the deck are not costly at all. Yeah. It's more about organization and discipline. So for example, the color coding, this simple thing, the magic, you know, I mean, these bands don't cost anything. What it costs is what you need is A, you need to think about it properly. B, when you're implementing it, you need to follow up very strictly, because if not, you're just wasting time. So a lot of these measures are not that expensive. I would say it is more the what is adding up, or when we went to the extreme, at some moment in time we became very nervous and we started segregating lots and lots of different people because we were afraid of a massive outbreak in the dormitory, and we moved 200 people or so into hotels. That of course was costly, and what is costing us money as well is the delay in the capital projects, but that is again more to the industry. We have big capital projects planned for, which are supposed to save us money, and they are being delayed. So that costs us more money than the implementation of the rules. But that is very specific, I would say, per industry.
All right, thank you. Vimala, are you aware of any tax rebates or incentives that might be offered later by the authorities on companies that, of course, going through this costing, or is that just part and parcel of the ongoing stimulus packages?
The one I mentioned, the 50,000 ringgit tax rebate for companies, leasing premises to rent for their workers, that is actually announced, and the gazette is being worked out right now. So at least that is there. And then if I'm not mistaken, SOCSO actually allowed some rebate or something for the testing undertaken among the workers. Like going to vaccination. See, all these are included in this creating a safe work environment, right? For the vaccination process, there's HRD Corp announced that 10% of their vaccination process costs can be reimbursed from HRD Corp. So that is there, yeah. And another thing for the vaccination process, there's also a tax rebate for preparing your on-site for vaccination itself. Say you would be preparing your site when it comes, there are 5 stations of vaccination, right? So the preparation of that, the payment to the healthcare organizers and all that. So the expenses incurred for the vaccine administration, there's a tax rebate offered as well to reduce cost of the whole process.
Excellent, thank you for that. All right, a quick look at some more of the Q&A. Sebastian is asking about how can it be that some companies are allowed to send in their office workforce, which probably could work remote, surely, but also, of course, don't forget that if you have hundreds and hundreds of people running around in the factory at the operation line, you will need a few people in the office as well to monitor that, maybe to take care of export orders, etc. But my personal experience is dealing with our member companies is that office staff is in general easily 70, 80, 90% is working from home. Also, most companies will have a maximum right now of 60% workforce, and the more office staff can work at home, the more actually staff they can have at the production line, which is
that's exactly what we do. So it's like it's for example, if the finance people once per month have to come in for 1 or 2 days to do the financial reporting, that's it, and the rest of the time they're home.
Yeah,
as an example.
Yeah. Excellent. Vimala, a question for you. From the data just now, somebody compares 2 sectors with each other. Automotive was very high, many applications in Safe at Work program. But for example, in essential industry, healthcare, according to this person, seemed not so encouraging. So how does what can MITI do to encourage, especially those essential industries, to get more involved in safe at work, so they don't come up with COVID clusters?
You see, as I mentioned, safe at Work is actually a voluntary program. Yeah. So when I see the sectors like automotive is, I think I would say one of the first ones to be hit with a shutdown. Remember, they are not considered essential. So maybe the expectation by the automotive sector is that if they participate in Safe at Work, they'll be given the opportunity to operate. So I foresee, so it's like healthcare sector, it's like, you know, they are allowed to operate 100% most of the time in any MCO phases, right? So I would see, my guess would be that, you know, the expectation to be allowed to operate would be the highest, you know, in terms of expectation. If they will participate in Safe at Work, they will be allowed to, you know, operate. So when it comes to encouragement, so as I mentioned, immediately after we launched this, we were, you know, assigned to roll out the industry vaccination program. So we're actually focusing on the industry vaccination so that at least if we achieve the 90% vaccination among the workers, the sectors should be allowed to operate. But at least that's the way forward the government is looking at and planning. Let's see in the coming days, there's an announcement on that.
I think, yes, we all expect an announcement. I have, I think, two quick questions for you, Vimala. One is, of course, you already mentioned the enforcement. In general, your advice would be that an enforcement visit by the Safe at Work team is more educational and friendly compared to the other kind of enforcement, which can immediately lead to fines or closure to companies that don't follow the SOPs. Is that a correct statement?
Exactly. Okay. So because I personally have been in MITI for so long, I don't really believe in going on a punishing mode all the time, because the businesses here is growing and young compared to many other, developed countries. They would have matured industries. So that was the main reason that Safe at Work was supposed to be a voluntary and hand-holding and helping the companies to adhere to SOPs. I don't think anybody would want infections, right? So that was the objective of it.
All right. And yes, we're now all looking forward to those comments about relaxation. We've heard it from the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister might come any day now. Minister of Health, DG of Health, Minister of Finance, they've all been talking about some kind of relaxation on the SOPs, especially with regard to vaccination. Do you think that the certification for Safe at Work also plays a role in that? Can there be some kind of combination? Indeed, companies that have been checked, there has been a MITI visit together with maybe certain percentages of vaccination. Is that what we can look forward to in the near future?
You see, when it comes to vaccination, at least we are looking at 85% of a company employee be vaccinated in order for us to promote opening up of that particular company. When it comes to Safe at Work, I would foresee in the future, we'd like to see this as a complementing tool for have more confidence in opening up the sector. But then Safe at Work will not be a mandatory tool for opening up. I would say vaccination is the key to opening up.
So for your two programs that you're running, because at this moment it has slightly the advantage over Safe at Work.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, okay. Because Safe at Work is voluntary, you know, so everybody can claim, because we don't have also the resources to undertake the verification visit. But when it comes to vaccination, we have a data to support and also push our agenda to opening up safely the operations.
All right, having said that, I know, Evert, you have to leave at this moment in time as well. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you very much for joining us today and for your questions. Our speakers, Vimala, thank you so much for making time. We hope that it has been an educational session for our speakers. Do make use, to the audience, do make use, everybody, of the information given by MITI, but also the possible tax advantages and other support that could be given via the Ministry of Human Resources, such as SOXCO and HRDF. Don't forget those opportunities. Evert, thank you for sharing your practical experience as well. Wishing you all the best. Tomorrow's your last day in Malaysia.
Well,
So-
I'll be coming back at some moment in time, and don't worry
Maybe
about it.
coming back and see how it will go here and how your teams
Sure.
are operating, all safe and in good health. You leave them in a perfect atmosphere behind. Having set all this up, fantastic compliments to you and your teams to have been able to take it this far already. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you so much for joining today. This was the part of the MDBC Human Resource Forum. Upcoming events this Saturday with Eurocham with the DG of Health on the Saturday, yes. And in August, we will have sessions related to carbon neutrality and on responsible business contact. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And don't forget, be safe, not just at work, but also be safe at home and anywhere in between. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Hey, bye-bye.